Hello, everyone. I'm Comic Chic, and this is Firefly, and we're here to talk to you about DC's new comic book universe, the Absolute Universe. All right, so how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Um, we've been loving the Ultimate line at Marvel, so DC coming out with this Absolute line is pretty exciting news. How about you?
Yeah, very excited to talk about this new universe. So we got the scoop from Bleeding Cool a few days ago on July 7th, and it says DC Comics launch Absolute Batman at San Diego Comic Con. And we've got a picture here of the Absolute Batman Ashcan that is supposedly, as you can see, it says SDCC 2024 exclusive Ashcan special edition with a cover by Nick Dragata. And it says, for the last year, I have been reporting, and I'm reading the article by Rich Johnston. For the last year, I have been reporting that the Absolute line at DC Comics, part of what has been called the DC All-In refresh and relaunch of the entire DC line. The Absolute line will be its own continuity akin to the Ultimate Universe, offering radical and modern takes on the classic DC Comics mainstay characters from A-list talent. I believed we would learn more at San Diego Comic Con, and here's the first evidence of that. I now have a cover shot of what I believe to be the Absolute Batman exclusive Ashcan being given away at SDCC in 2 weeks, but also appearing in comic book stores. Has your store got a copy yet? At this stage, I have no more details, but I do believe it is to be part of the Absolute line being shown by Scott Snyder, with Snyder writing Absolute Batman as well, and with a cover by Nick Dragata. So this is like this. He also said in another article how basically Rebirth was like creatively led by Jeff Johns. The Absolute Universe is going to be creatively led by Scott Snyder. So if you're a fan of Scott Snyder, that's going to be interesting. I was hoping I don't know if, again, none of this is confirmed yet. This is all speculation, and right, there's some good evidence supporting these theories, but take it with a grain of salt. But great scoop by Bleeding Cool. I'll give them the
I
mention
mean,
there.
whatever it is, we'll find out more after Comic Con.
Yeah. So what do you think of this cover with a really big bulky Batman? I gotta say, I like. He's definitely not been skipping Traps Day. I'll say that much.
He's not skipping any days. He's not skipping
Yeah,
anything. He's
dude.
jacked.
I don't like the bat logo though. Like I kind of, it does feel kind of Dark Knight Returnsy, and I like that,
Well,
but I feel like
very,
it's
very.
way too thick. It's like
I'll
some
tell
people have
you,
been saying it's a rectangle. You know?
it does look like I think it looks that way in the cover because when I saw the cover I didn't like it either. But if you see in one of the other articles, like during in the panels during action movement, it looks more like a bad logo. It looks better there than in the cover for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I like
I
the
do
cape
like.
though.
Me too. I
The
was just about
cape.
to say I like the
Yeah.
cape. Yeah, with the wings, and they almost look like he can like walk around with them or even fight with them.
Yeah.
Um,
They have like
this
hooks at
does
the bottom.
yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the like that scene in the Planetary Batman comic book where he draws out the swords and he's fighting. I forget her name, but he's fighting the hero from Planetary. Sorry, I'm just getting a blank there. But yeah, if you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, it does look kind of like that. I so far though, I do like how it's a very different take from what we were
Yeah.
conventionally getting over at the DC line right now. So that has me excited. And yeah, I mean, are you gonna check this out when and if it
Absolutely.
hits shelves? Yeah,
Absolutely. I've
absolutely.
been
He says.
I've
Yeah.
been I've been on record saying how excited I was for Dawn of DC and how, in my opinion, they kind of fumbled it. I'm not gonna get into that so much, but this I'm super excited for. Like I said, the Ultimate lineup Marvel has been going great. It's the different take on all the characters is great. So I'm very excited for this, especially after reading the rumored creative teams behind all the books. I know I'm a big fan of Scott Snyder. You're a big fan of Scott Snyder. I
Mhm.
love his Batman New 52 run. So to have him back on Batman is great news.
Yeah, and they say the discussion for what is coming for DC Comics, Absolute Comics, or Absolute Universe is meant to be a new separate continuity line show run by Scott Snyder as part of his wider revamp of the DC Comics line, as DC All In has been quite the topic of late. compared to the Ultimate line, but sharing its own internal continuity between the books, unlike Elseworlds, All Star, or Black Label books. So basically, from what I understand, it's another universe in the DC like
Right, and that's kind of how it
omniverse.
is in Marvel too, right? Like the
Yeah,
Ultimate is a different. That's fine. The part that I don't
yeah.
get
So they're
from
the
the
same
article as much.
multiverse as standard DC. Interesting.
Yeah,
So they'll
yeah.
be
So
able to
it's
cross over. Cool.
right, right.
Yeah.
The part I didn't get is kind of the difference between, or the distinction between absolute and all in. That's the part that I
All in
didn't
is
really get.
like Dawn of DC. Like that's what it's
Okay,
like.
okay,
The
okay. And absolute is that universe, that line of
yeah,
books
yeah,
in that universe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So what's interesting here is that it also says other involved creators we previously heard include Scott Snyder on Absolute Batman, Jason Aaron on Absolute Superman, and Kelly Thompson on Absolute Wonder Woman. Do we need to add Nick Dragata to that list now? Interesting. I mean, look, I do like what I hear there. I thought those are all interesting creators to see on those respective titles. We did get a tease of Jason Aaron on Superman with his 3-issue Bizarro story earlier this year with the All Star Superman thing they're doing right now, Superman All Stars or whatever they're calling the that
Yeah,
initiative they're doing. So yeah, like Bleeding Cool has been reporting on this for a while, and it's really interesting to see that we're getting some concrete news now, and that's not all, of course. But Bleeding Cool, courtesy of Bleeding Cool, earlier today, they've also dropped the first interior pages
that looks
that
sick.
we've
Like,
seen on the internet.
does
Yeah,
the logo
Dark Knight
change your
Returns
opinion
vibes,
here?
bro.
Oh,
Eh,
very, very. I think it looks
yeah,
a lot better here than in the cover.
I will say, and we'll drop a visual reference for you guys here in a second, but it also does remind me, not necessarily the artwork itself, but the aesthetic approach of like trying to make it more manga-like with less colors reminds me of the that approach that they took with Future State Gotham, that series, that ongoing series that they did a few years ago when Future State was a thing. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's particularly interesting to see. I thought that was really cool back then, and I do think this is really cool now. I gotta say, it's very dynamic. Like the artwork
yeah,
looks very
yeah,
dynamic. Look great. Yeah, some really, but like, look at how his cape is almost like coming to life. Do you see that?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's kind
It's
of
very
wild.
bat-like. Like they took the
Yeah,
bat in the Batman very literally in this adaptation. It
yeah.
looks like.
Look at that, and it's like even here, he's using his wings as like kind of hooks. It's really interesting.
Are you a Longhorns Batman or ears or short? Which one do you prefer more?
Honestly, I like both. I'm one of those guys that I grew up during the Kelly Jones when he was the artist on Batman, so around like the late 400s, early 500s, Nightfall, Night's End, Night Quest, that kind of stuff. And I really
Yeah,
like the long ears, but I also love the classic short ears. So I'm
I
good
like
with
these
both.
ears. I like
Yeah,
this is a good length. So
yeah. Look at
correct me if
that.
I'm wrong. It's only black and white since it's an Ashcan, right? When the actual book comes out, it'll be colored.
I have no idea. That's not confirmed
Okay.
yet, but I imagine yes. Like that's my
Yeah,
guess,
I
right?
would think so too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have in terms of the absolute news. But let me bring back that article here in a second. But yeah, I'm really excited for this line, and I'm curious to see what other creators are going to be involved. I know there was one more article they had here about
There's a few
which
more, yeah, that
creators.
they
Yeah,
they came out with. There's Che Grayson, Jeff Lemire,
yeah, Hayden
um,
Sherman.
Jahoni Lindsay, Pornsak.
Yeah,
I don't know how to say that. Maybe you could take
yeah,
a
Pisha
shot.
Shote. No,
Yeah,
it's hard as well. I'm sorry if we butchered that point, Zach, but yeah, there's just a lot of really good names coming up in this initiative, so I'm very excited for that. So this is the list we've got for the Absolute Power creative lineup. We've got Che Grayson, who's a filmmaker, TED speaker, and writer on Dark Spaces, Bitch Planet, Batman Urban Legends, and other DC anthologies. Jeff Lemire. Do we really need an introduction for Jeff Lemire? Janoy Lindsay, Pornsak Picture Show, Nick Robles, Rafa Sandoval, and Hayden Sherman. That's in addition, of course, to the aforementioned Jason Aaron, Scott Snyder, Nick Dragata, Kelly Thompson, and one other name that comes up is Dennis Camp. So,
uh,
yeah.
I I don't think I don't know if it was this article or the last one, but they did mention Al Ewing too being involved somehow.
Oh, yeah, yeah, Ali Wing. You're right. You're
Yeah,
right. I gotta say that's a very exciting lineup. Like that's a really good
definitely.
lineup, and depending on what kind of books they're doing and everything, I'm very in for that. I'm definitely interested so far in the creative lineup they have. These are a lot of my favorite, my especially my newer favorite writers and
Definitely.
artists working in the industry right now. So I'm leaning more towards checking this out. And I think, what do you think? Like, is this going to be good for people who are trying to get something different, like kind of like I guess Ultimate Spider-Man back in the day, or even now?
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely, definitely. I'll tell you what, like, because I have one of my uncles. He used to read comics back in the day, and he kind of stopped for a long time. Now he's just kind of just getting back into it. And he asked me about Ultimate Spider-Man. That's the first like modern comic he asked me about forever. So if Ultimate is kind of reaching people on the periphery like that, I really hope Absolute kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I
And it'll be
think
a
for
great pickup
people who are
point too,
new,
right? Like if you're not keeping up with
yeah,
continuity or whatever, you can just pick it up, start reading it, and hopefully um, keep getting it.
yeah, or if you're like a newer reader and you want something different, this could be a good place to check that out. I'm personally very curious just because I like the creators involved, and it's always good to have fresh takes on these existing, mainline characters. So very
Definitely.
curious for that. And yeah, so if you're excited, keep your eyes peeled for San Diego Comic Con, Bleeding Cool, and other comic book resources. We'll find out more about the absolute DC universe and whether it's basically the new version of Ultimate Comics for DC. It looks promising, and the creators involved look pretty good. Let us know what you think, and if you're going to be interested in checking this out. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Keep on reading.